What? Hutch doesn't identify as a moderate? No, I self-describe as a progressive. I'm still hanging on to that label. I won't let those motherfuckers take it away from me. I won't do it. They're not going to take it from me. I'm still hanging on to that one.
That's how they get you, Hutch.
I think the Democratic Party should be defined by progress. Should be defined by progressivism.
Bro says Spanish was thousands of years old. It is the raping of language, as all Mexicans say, okay? It is the raping of language, okay?
It should be defined by moving forward.
I love Latinas. No, you don't. You sexualize Latinas, okay? Loving Latinas means also loving the ugly ones, okay?
Forward. Whether that be at a slow pace at sometimes or a rapid pace at other times, we should be moving forward, not trying to protect and preserve our traditions at the expense of progress, which is like the whole reactionary philosophy. Prog. Wait, is that I love that. That's a good one.
No ugly ones. Well.
Is that a thing?
Good
That's
enough.
that felt like home. Pragmatic progressive, that feels like home to me. I'm a radical pragmatist. That's what I would say. Like, I think about feasibility and possibility more than I think about individual policies, I guess. A radical, anti-radical. I'm not even against radicalism.
After 40, the butt deflates. Headshot. After 40, everyone deflates. Okay, so I don't know what you're talking about. All right. Sometimes I look at old women on the street. All right, like old Asian ladies on the street, and I'm like, man, she was a real banger back in the day, okay? Because trust me, at some point, your hot Asian waifu is going to turn into menopause waifu, okay? Except for me, all right? Because I'm going to take estradiol for fucking forever, okay? So I'm built different, okay? But, you know.
Just depends on the moment, depends on the issue. Random hero with $2. Progressives, there are dozens of us. Dozens. Now, I think it's like a full third or maybe 40% of the party self-identifies as progressive. So I'm certainly not the only one. It's just that progressivism has taken a shot to the gut in the last like 5 years.
If you have enough money,
a lot of people associate progressivism with what they call wokeism. And so there's like a bit of a brand reputational hit in the last like 5 years, but I refuse to shed the label. Classical progressive. I like that. That's a good, yeah, I mean, I think that's fairly accurate, I would say. Like, the negative kind of progressivism that I'm talking about is like when you hear people say like, it's literally impossible to be racist against a white person. I think most people hear that and they're like, well, that doesn't seem right. Obviously, there's a difference in anti-white racism versus anti-black racism. We should have a conversation about institutional hurdles and systemic problems. All that's valid. But, you know, the idea that you can never be racist against a white person just seems pretty fucking counterintuitive when you think about it. I never experienced so many racial slurs in my life before I started sparring with lefties on Twitter. I got called white boy one time in my youth. One time, okay? This kid named Wesley, forgot his last name. He was a real asshole. We were playing basketball. He was picking on me, and he called me white boy. And I was like, huh. Like, I wasn't even offended. I was just confused. I mean, it wasn't a slur, but it was...
This reminds me of the ContraPoints racism problem. Do you guys remember? Okay, yeah, you know what? Not you guys remember, because it only happened like fucking 5 days ago or some shit, okay? When I know nothing ever happens. But like, it's when ContraPoints was like sparring on Twitter against like lefties, like Hassan-type lefties. And she was basically saying like, yeah, you know what? The left has a fucking anti-Semitism problem, and it's true. I don't even know why I'm pretending that, you know, it doesn't exist or whatever the fuck, or why you're trying to get me to gaslight into thinking that leftist anti-Semitism doesn't exist, right? Like, just listen, okay? If you've ever been in a voice chat with Fire or Wintermute, you'll know immediately that they are hella anti-Semitic, okay? They're like, I don't know about that. You kind of sound like a Jew. Nah, you're Juden, okay? You are Jewish, actually. All right, I'm just saying, okay? These so-called socialists and communists are like the most anti-Semitic of the anti-Semitics, okay? Wormslayers doesn't count. Like, this person is an anti-fan, okay? Listen, fuck Wormslayers, okay? Fuck Wormslayers, fuck Wintermute, fuck Fire, okay? Fuck it. Listen, I don't let them represent my audience, okay? They are not my audience, okay? Period. Anyway. Bevins, thank you so much for the tier 1. I appreciate that. Thank you. Welcome. Yes, guys, please donate more. I love money.
I mean, what else do you call that, right? Like, I was just confused. And that was the only time I never got called like the C word that I can't say on Twitter or Twitch.
like my biggest worry, okay, and this is how I moderate. Ready? This is how I moderate. My biggest worry is letting people like Wintermute and Fire and like Worm Slayers define what my audience is, okay? Because I actually don't want my audience culture to be like Wintermute or Worm Slayers, okay? I like sure they are fun to have around in terms of stimulating the general chat, but like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, okay, I don't actually want them to be representative of my fucking audience's culture, you know?
Oh my goodness.
Ari, thank you so much for the gifted one tier fucking whatever the gifted membership. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. But like I said, like it's just I don't know. It's just fuck. It's a hard problem to solve because it's a balancing act between. It's really a balancing act between like, okay, how much can you let them get away with versus like how much you want them to stimulate the audience chat. Like it's a hard balance, and you know, yeah. Thank you, Moz, for trying to balance it. I guess I don't know, but like you know, that's kind of the direction I kind of want to go. You know. Anyway. Yeah, I do actually think Worm Slayers is too edgy. Yes. I actually don't think what they say is acceptable. Yeah, that's right. I don't care if they're trolling.
Never experienced any of that. And then I started sparring with like Hassan and Mike, and I have never, and it was a deluge of people hitting me with the slur. I was like, what the f? I don't know. What are some of the other progressive positions that have been adopted? Cringe wokeism. Erudite came on to the podcast like 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about like the challenges that young men face, and that got me thinking. About things a little bit differently. I thought she was making some pretty compelling points. When I look back on my life, there are certainly things about being a man who was raised in the era that I was raised in. There are certainly things that were really difficult for me, and I never really thought about it in that way until recently. Now, you know, there's a different level of problems, you know. It's obvious that women face like so many hurdles still to this day. A lot of progress has been made. There are issues, political.
There's also a huge sexism problem on the left. It's like fuck me, dude. It's just
issues right now that are directly affecting women in a very profound way. You know, like if I want to get a vasectomy, I can just make an appointment, go to the doctor, and they'll do that shit. I think it might even be covered by insurance. Hang on, do I want a vasectomy? Am I still gonna? It's not federally mandated under the ACA to cover vasectomies, so cover.
Dude, please don't remind me. Please don't remind me of insurance. Okay, I paid $920 non-refundable. Okay.
Coverage varies by plan. Okay. You know, because of an election 9 years ago, we now live in a country where a third of women live in a state where.
Was that a lie? You can't randomly get your balls chopped? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that one, Hutch. Okay.
Or abortions are
there's no shot you can get a vasectomy covered under insurance. That's crazy.
Effectively banned. And some of them live in states where if you travel outside of the state,
unless you have a medical condition that warrants it,
to get an abortion, you can be prosecuted for that. So like,
sure
there's levels to it, right? There's levels to it. I'm the youngest boy in my family. I'm the only boy.
Sex
addiction. Older sisters, you know. I am.
That's a skill.
I would say like very aware, as aware as I can be of the challenges that women face. And when I look back on like, there's still things to this day that I emotionally struggle with because I was raised in a time by a very stoic father who had and it wasn't just him, but like he was a very stoic, disciplinary kind of like a man's man. Like my dad was a man. Like my dad would walk in the room and he's just scanning, you know, scanning for perps, looking at the exit strategy if he has to, like he's just Vietnam veteran. He's just wired differently, you know, like he is a man.
PTSD,
like,
you mean?
Like a Clint Eastwood man, you know.
Okay, it's
was
PTSD.
Enormous,
Hutch,
you know. My
PTSD.
dad shrunk a little bit in his elderly years, but he's like 6'5".
Hutch, it's called PTSD.
He had a voice that could make the whole house.
Okay, why the fuck are you talking about your dad like that? Like, do you want him to like give you a sloppy toppy or what's going on here?
Rumble, you know. And there was just a set of expectations. I don't know about you guys, but like crying was discouraged for young men. And I think it's getting better. I think we're starting to see more people that are like open to stuff like therapy and
I
think it is getting better for men. And then it's also getting worse in some areas because you have like the rise of super toxic masculinity, you know, like the rise of Andrew Tate, because men feel like they're being feminized, which is kind of ridiculous. But because I was raised in a time when like crying was just like the only acceptable way for young men to display their emotions when I was growing up was like anger and aggression. That was more acceptable than crying, right? Like that was just a culturally reinforced thing. And that fucks you up, dude. That fucks you up. It sticks with you. You can go to therapy for the rest of your adult life and you're still going to be dealing with the, you know, your mind forms these core memories and the body remembers. And so you go your whole life like you're, you know, still to this day when I get emotional sometimes. I'm older now, so I'm just more comfortable with it. I get emotional sometimes, especially watching movies, anything to do with like sisters or cancer. That'll get the emotions going for me. And I still like my first instinct is to like.
Okay, so his fetishes are sisters and cancer. I got it.
My body physically tenses up when I feel like I'm about to shed a tear. I physically tense up.
I get that too when I'm about to come.
As if my body is physically pushing it down, which is not healthy. It's not healthy. That is not healthy. But that's just the reality. And so like, you know, I go to therapy and I work on myself and it's gotten better. Definitely gotten better. But like this idea, I think that like you shouldn't talk about men's issues at all. That's kind of like a toxic progressivism. You guys know what I'm talking about. There's some people that are like toxically progressive where it's like, sit the f down. You're a cisgendered male. Okay. What problems could you possibly have? Like that stuff, you know.
Learn more about men. He said that because many men deal with the pressure to live up to their fathers, often to a fault. Yeah, sure. Okay, yes. I know I'm just memeing around, but like I have talked about this before where, yeah, like men do have a lot of gendered expectations that are unfair, obviously. So people feel as though, I mean, I do believe that the left overcompensates a lot as well. Like I do actually believe that. It's okay. You don't have to be that feminine, mate. Okay.
Like, feminine, and I'm not saying this is the norm, right? But like some people take it to a toxic degree. I think most people that call themselves feminists or espouse feminism, I think most people obviously make space for improvement for young men. The people that I'm talking about.
I'm expected to last more than 10 seconds in bed. Slanted face emoji.
Are kind of outliers, but they just they kind of dominate a lot of the discussion. No, I'm realistic about this. Don't tell me this is a horribly online take. I have no illusions that this is the norm, but enough people have this view that it became kind of an issue. Like Erudite was talking about how young boys we're just more prone to aggression. That's just a reality. We're more prone to anger and aggression. And there are biological reasons for this. You can have some people that break the mold on both ends of the spectrum, but that's just the reality. We're more predisposed to aggression. And she was saying that society is not doing a good enough job, like making space for that aggression in kind of like a healthy way. Like there's a way to let out your aggression and express anger in a way that like doesn't hurt other people. Or theoretically, there should be ways, and so we should explore that instead of like being like, no, don't do the thing, you know? But it's like, so she got me thinking about that a little bit.
Charles, you just see how that flooded Texas county had not been warned a decade ago that they need to make changes to compensate. But also in 2022, when the Biden admin offered an American Rescue Plan, they rejected the money. Oh, then they kind of deserved to get flooded then.
Which I thought was interesting. Alex with $10. Unfortunately, it seems to be the norm. White men have it so easy, so leftists feel like they can't complain about anything because everyone else has it worse. White men have it so easy. That's another thing too. It's like I think we can acknowledge institutional
premeditated child
advantages
murder
that white men maybe have.
Have you ever wondered that the Texas floodings are just like toxic masculinity like turned up to 500? If you think about it, the more true it gets, okay?
Well, at the same time, like my life, I don't know about you guys, but when I look back on my life, I don't look at it like that was easy. I don't. Like there's a lot of pain.
Look, I'm just saying, okay? They listen. That Texas thing is just them saying, I'm gonna pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, reject all help, fuck being feminine, and then they die, okay?
A lot of confusion.
Right. It's God rap, true.
A lot of bad decisions. People, yeah. A lot of anger and incredible sadness. Like I don't feel.
Look, listen, the masculine.
Like my life was easy. You surely have benefited from white privilege. Of course. Of course. Of course I have.
Also, never feel bad for making fun of them, because the reality is that when the wildfires were happening in California, the conservatives were cheering, okay? So, you know.
I got pulled over. I don't know how much detail I can get into it because I'm on Twitch. This was years ago, at a low point in my life. I mean, very low, okay? I was making all kinds of bad decisions. And those bad decisions were cascading. Like it was getting worse. And the volume of bad decisions and the seriousness of those bad decisions were commensurately getting worse.
I'm also optics brain, but it's a good thing that I'm not a politician. But also, like, I think this is part of the optics battle, right? Fuck. Like, I think it is optics battled based when, like, I think it's good to practice the same things that conservatives do because they're so good at the optics shit, right? They're so good at it. They get to make fun of people and get away with it. That's like the ultimate optics S tier play. That's crazy.
Of course.
Yeah, anyway.
And I got pulled over in a situation where I should have gone to jail because of my bad decision that night. And miraculously,
so we need to change our standards. Okay?
I was, what year was this? 29?
Never be apologetic.
99 times out of 100, I'm going to jail on that particular night. And I got let off. Miraculously.
So Asmund was cheering on people dying. I said conservatives, not necessarily Asmongold, though I would not be surprised if Asmongold did. Okay? I'm sorry that when I say conservatives, you instantly think of Asmongold. That's how brain rotted you are. But good job.
I mean, my life would have changed after that. My actual life would have changed. Now, would that same decision have been made by that police officer if the color of my skin was a different shade? I don't know. Maybe not though. So obviously, I don't reject the concept of white privilege, but I don't feel like my life was easy. You know, a lot of that was my own bad decisions. I'm not blaming the world or whatever, but I mean, I'm just saying, it's hard to be a human being. It's hard. This is the predicate for every major religion in the world. Why do you think religion exists?
But most people seem to attack him. I do hate Asmongold. I do actually dislike him. Okay. Fuck. I'm sorry. I'm not going to pretend I'm like some kind of Asmongold shill. Okay. Fuck this guy.
This is because to live is to suffer. Pain is unavoidable. Difficulties are unavoidable.
Yeah, I am an Asmongold hater.
It's hard to be.
Yes, Giga Chat. I am an Asmongold hater. I am a J-Stalk hater. I am a Queeman hater. I am a Hassan hater. Okay. I am a hater. Okay.
A human being. Consciousness is a. What's that line in a fucking.
Asmongold is my #1 reason for supporting abortion.
True detective about consciousness. I'm gonna go full Rust Cole on you guys here. I think human consciousness is a tragic misstep in evolution. We became too self-aware. That is a slogan that applies to my life various times. I'm bipolar, okay? I am bipolar. That shit is real.
Oh.
I am bipolar type 2.
Oh my god. He's like BBD, but fixed. The very rare kind.
Amazing. Was born with the unbelievable luck to have a mental illness that has the highest rate of unaliving. We are just depressed.
Hutch is very mentally stable.
Constantly depressed. Catastrophically depressed. So when I look back on that shit was not easy. You know, it got a lot easier after I got a diagnosis and actually got on medication. My whole life changed. But before Medicaid.
Look, as someone who has ADHD and OCD, okay, life gets a lot easier once you get on medication, get on therapy for both of these, okay? Get a fucking diagnosis, get on medication, but medication is not enough. You need to go attend therapy, okay? All right, for ADHD and OCD. All right, if you want a better life for yourself.
Pre-medicated Hutch was just bad decision after bad decision after bad decision.
Yep.
And I used substances to self-medicate because that was the only.
Well, you're supposed to get therapy for ADHD. It helps a lot. I should do better on ADHD like therapy kind of things, but it helps a lot. Yes, there is therapy like behaviors that you can practice for ADHD. Yes, absolutely. But you know, medication helps too. Okay, of course. Medication, listen, what medication is supposed to do is that it's supposed to help you do these exercises easier, okay? It's not an end-all be-all solution, of course, right? It's supposed to help you do these anti-mental illness exercises easier. People misunderstand the purpose of medication. It's not a cure. It's not a cure. Neither is it a drug in which you can get so addicted to the point where it's hard for you to wean off of it. That's not the thing. It's supposed to, because if you ever tried to do therapy related like mental exercises without medication, it is the toughest thing in the world. Okay, it is so hard. It is so hard to the point where there's literally just no point in doing exercises without medication. But if you combine these exercises with medication, you become God. Okay, you will achieve godhood. Okay, in life. All right. You will get that promotion. You will get that career change. You will get, like, that fucking college degree done. Okay, period. Like, it just is. Okay? And I'm also tired of people saying that therapy and like, fucking mental illness drugs are bad. Okay? I'm sorry. It's just, it's good. Okay? It's good. Okay, yeah.
Only thing that gave me relief was drinking a bunch of whiskey.
Stop being anti-medicine.
Made me feel a little bit less... You know,
you will get that
shit was not easy, you know. So, you know, we got to make space for stuff like white privilege. We should talk about that stuff, but we should make space for the possibility that, like, being a white guy doesn't mean that your problems just go away. And so, like, some people, and again, these are outliers. I'm not saying most people think that.
Therapy helped me a lot, but I think it helps men a lot less. Okay, as a man, as a former man, I will say that therapy helped me out a lot. Okay, so yeah. Dude, I think it's just probably because men are raised to be more stubborn. I think that's literally why. I think that's the only reason why, on average, right? I don't know.
But, like, there are outlier sort of, like, toxic progressives that...
Don't let that stubbornness hold you back from becoming a better person, okay?
There's, like, no space for that. Latinx, okay, bro. So whoever said Latinx, now that is the perfect example that I could give for toxic progressivism. Latinx is crazy. That is crazy. It's like 95% of Latinos don't like that phrase, and you still see it in like an academic setting. It's
Oh, accountability is also important. Have a friend hold you to therapy behaviors, okay? I know that I get lazy and I stop doing them, okay? Having a friend to help you through it is far better, okay? Or some kind of set thing, all right?
Great.
Therapy is basically guided self-reflection. If you can't self-reflect in the first place, it's a lot less effective. Yeah. Well, I mean, you shouldn't be doing therapy in the first place if you don't want to improve, okay? If you're, like, typically, literally every single therapist says this, okay? If it's your parents or it's someone who is a friend telling you to do this therapy, but you personally don't want to do it, I don't want to accept you as a patient. Because I do not think you will be receptive to this treatment, right? Because if you're only here because of outside peer pressure, yeah, and I would actually bet it's the men who are typically the ones where it's like, oh, my wife is making me get like this therapy treatment. It's my wife that's doing it. It's my wife that's making me. It's my girlfriend that's making me do it, you know? But typically, I bet that whenever girls attend therapy, it's like, oh, I personally want to become better. That's why. Okay? So, yeah, I do think Lynn is kind of spitting, okay? That's why I think, like, yeah, I do think girls are a little bit more receptive, because typically when men show up for therapy, yeah, it's their girlfriends telling them to do it, okay?
Easy, man. It's just, it violates the whole, Spanish is a gendered language. There's no, it's baked into the language. Are we just going to add an X to everything that ends in O or A? You're going to ungender a language that's thousands of years old, however old Spanish is? Good luck with that. I mean, I don't even know if this is necessarily restricted to like toxic progressivism, but I mean, we're also kind of delving into cringe lib territory. Like, I feel like you can find a lot of cringe lib types that use Latinx.
Also, it turns out working out doesn't actually like solve whatever mental health issues you have. Okay, I think exercising is good. Having endorphins release makes you happier, but but a lot of people who kill themselves work out. Okay, I'm just gonna say. Well, it turns out they actually do work out. Everybody thinks they're doing well until they kill themselves. Okay. Therapy seems cool, but I guess so many people have had great results. I just get pissed from the dumbest psycho. Yeah, like, yeah, no. I mean, I blame people who drag down the name of therapy and fucking psych medication, okay? I've literally never met a single person who regrets taking psych medication, okay? Unless they were doing some stupid bullshit. All right, I'm just saying. Anyway.
Someone in my chat is saying like, that plenty of people use Latinx in California. I mean, I'm sure by the numbers that's true. California's a big state. Yeah, but it's specifically cringe libs trying to co-opt progressive aesthetics. I mean, I think some of it is that. Maybe even a great deal of that. I mean, I'm not immune to it either, you know, like certainly wasn't immune to it in 2020 at the height of this kind of stuff, right? But, you know, to be alive is to suffer. I mean, that's like a basic like Buddhist tenet, like the foundation of Buddhism. They call it samsara. You know, you're on that, you're a hamster on the wheel, bro. And they're right about that. You know, they're right about that. So I think people need to, we should focus on institutional hurdles or other ways that we can make progress. There's still a lot of ways that we can improve racially or along gender lines. And at the same time, I think we need to also just remember that everybody's a human being and everybody's suffering. I mean, that's difficult when you try to apply it to like rabid MAGA people, but I think it's a good principle.
Okay, Lynn, I actually think what iDubbbz has done in terms of taking the last name in of itself is fine. Okay, define gender norms like that, that's kind of based. Okay, I'm gonna be totally honest. I think that's based. All right, it is. Okay, it just is. But the thing is, but you know, but you know what's the loser shit is when. No, I will not legalize therapy. Thank you for attending, Sterling. Though I appreciate that. No, that's super fucking late. Nah, no. As a based feminist, I have to say it's fine. Okay, it's fine to have something like that. But the thing is that just imagine, okay, just imagine if Anissa was actually a supportive wife who wasn't abusive, who wasn't cringe, who wasn't everything like that, who didn't impose herself upon him, who didn't treat him like trash, and then she said something like, baby, you don't have to do that. You don't have to take my last name, you know? And then Ian was like, no, I do actually want to take your last name because I think men, I think women have to take the men's last name too much. And so therefore I am doing this because I just don't think it's a big deal, okay? Yeah, in that context, it does sound kind of based, okay? It just is. I'm sorry, it is. All right? But the reason why we make fun of Anissa and Ian is because they're cringe and cuck. Okay, that's why. Anyway.
I think the problem I have with this comparison is that it's trying to compare statistical level issues between gender, race, and personal problems. I'm saying we need to compartmentalize these things.
That is like peak on... Okay, we can agree to disagree.
You shouldn't focus on one thing at the absolute detriment of the other thing. So you shouldn't focus on your own problems so much so that you just ignore these institutional problems, and you should not exclusively focus on the institutional problems, and it leads you to discounting the universal condition of suffering that every human being experiences. Yeah, so anyways, those are just a few things that I would call like toxically progressive, but I still would call myself a progressive, but it's just, I touched on this and then I kind of moved away from it. Like, I'm not thinking about policy right now, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm just not. I'm not thinking about Medicare for all. I'm not thinking about that shit right now, because we got
the Catholic
way bigger problem.
Listen, Catholicism even says marriage can only be between a man and a woman. Okay, so
right now, like,
yeah,
that has to take priority. The Donald Trump movement, MAGA, the new incarnation of the Republican Party, that has to be front and center. We have to make sure that they lose. The consequences of them winning more are getting worse and worse. It's getting worse. It's getting so much worse. Does anybody disagree that the second Trump term has been like 10 times worse than the first term? It's getting so much worse. So that has to be the priority. And so it's like recognizing the threat of Trump and focusing on coalition building. That's like first. And then after that, it's like, we can think about these other policies, which I want to do, but those have to kind of take a back seat for a second. If you can do them, if there's an opportunity to do them at the local level, or state level, or national level at some point, pounce on the opportunity and actually do something with the power that you have. But
focus on Trump.
We have to make sure that they stop getting power. We have to. It's so bad. It's so goddamn bad. Because we are down bad as a country right now. It's so fucking bad. Vote blue no matter who. You're using that as a pejorative, or you're using that as like a negative thing. But what if we reframed that entirely? Okay.
Hutch kind of saying, okay, the one thing I always appreciate about Hutch is that he seems to always keep optics in mind. Okay. He seems to always put optics in mind, and I can always appreciate that about Hutch. He's very optics-minded. Like, Hutch is probably one of the most optics-minded liberals in the space.
What if we framed it as, let's team up. We can't lose.
He's the most agreeable
if we work together. That's how I'm gonna reframe it. Instead of blue no matter who, I'm gonna say we can't lose if we work together. That's what it means. So if somebody way to my left gets nominated to represent my district in Congress, I'm going to vote for that person. That's the blue guy. That's the blue.
Mofos be like, my conservative take is, how about you just don't be conservative? How about you just be liberal instead? Huh? How about you just don't have conservative? Just have liberal takes only, okay? Okay, anyway, sorry.
Blue guy. And if you live in a district where someone to your right is nominated to be your nominee, then you vote for that blue guy. Vote blue no matter who is unironically the best prescriptive solution available right now. But the lefties don't like it because it's like they feel like they have to shit on their own principles to do that, and it just pisses them off. So
my most conservative take, I hate women.